Welcome to another episode of the Cultures Football Podcast with me, James Allen, Michael Wootton, Beyond Bateza, and today we are joined by the incredible, the magnificent, fantastic stand-up comedian and Celtic fan, Marc Jennings.
Hello, boys.
Hey.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Well, if somewhere
Thanks for
towards
joining.
studio, and I was just remarking off camera how lovely it looked. Very Kandinsky-esque. Yeah.
That's first reference over my head for this.
I remember doing art in school. They've got it was like the fella who did them squares. You know what I mean?
Pierre Mondrian.
That's the one. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, anyway, that's the
Who did he play for back in the 2000s?
Nice and early. Get that in.
Expressionists, man. Thank you so much for joining us, Marc. We crossed paths when we were doing our live show, and you very kindly popped in to have a look at whatever it was that we were doing.
It was great to see. I was very much enjoying it and enjoying how passionate everybody was and how knowledgeable, I must say, your fans were. Although they were getting annoyed. I was saying before we started rolling, like I was laughing quite a bit at something, and a guy kind of turned round as if like to say shut up because he was really just wanted to focus on the stats.
Well, it went downhill from there anyway. So. Don't know if you've ever Zeke Heiled to a crowd for a joke and nobody gets it, but I have.
No, but I did have someone in the crowd see Kyle at me recently. That did happen, and then somebody
really?
that was in the gig put it on Reddit the next day, and I had to basically put up a big thing explaining to people why the staff were right to not chuck them out because there's only 5 minutes to go, which put me in a weird position of having to defend someone who'd done a nasty slip.
You and West Ham fans.
Yeah.
Was it Wayne Hennessy?
What do you expect if you play Millwall that time of year? You know.
We obviously we did. I think this is the first time we've had someone who supports a team from the SPFL, and we when we did
from
the
abroad.
James, we did the Bald Firm. Do you not remember that?
Oh, of course, yeah. Many moons ago, second. But since we did the Barclaysman, we had a number of Scottish football fans message us and ask if we were going to do a Clydesdalesmen. We haven't as of yet. But if you were to put forward any sort of Scottish League equivalents of Barclaysman, have you got any in mind?
Oh, I mean that's bringing me with it. I mean, I do have my, because I was asked to get my Celtic five-a-side team, so there's a few in there, and to be honest, there's a few in my Barclaysmen team that there's quite a few of them that have played in Scotland, so that's influenced my opinion. The problem is where even the name is hard because it's went through quite a lot of different sponsors. The Scottish Premier, it used to be called the Scottish Premier League, the SPL, I think, but I think that's probably your time. But and probably the most because it's like the most notable ones are all going to be Celtic and Rangers players. There is obviously in Scotland, there's people that you've got these knowledge of guys that played for Dundee and Livingston and all that sort of stuff, but you would really decrease your listenership if you started doing that.
For me though, like there's loads of I don't know, Cinchmen, even though it's a long time after. But a lot of them come from being a kid and watching Final Score and just seeing the same names pop up all the time, like Rudy Scatchell.
Rudy Scatchell. Well, he was because Hearts were good then, and they were always in Europe, and there's a guy, BBC Scotland commentator, and he'd always be like, Rudy Scatchell! Like, he just had this high pitched voice, and Rudy Scatchell, he was a player, man. He was some player.
And there was Arvidas Novakovas as well. I remember him. And
was it Akos Bozaki at Hearts?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest.
I'm certain he was. But anyone with a name like that sounds like they've had a stint at Hearts, don't they? But they had like a spell of having half Lithuania's team.
Yeah.
Vladimir Romanov took them over, and to be fair, they finished it. There was a season that looked like they might win the league. George Burley was the manager, and they won the first 9 games of the season, and then they sacked him because he fell out with Romanov. But that was, I think it was the first season Gordon Strachan was Celtic manager. And but it looked like Hearts might win the league, but they finished above Rangers that season, and that was before they totally went to shit, basically. So it was quite an impressive achievement.
I do think, though, what you're saying before, in regards to players that would maybe turn the listenership away, like there was quite a lot of eyes on the Scottish League, especially late '90s, turn of the century, because it was that Spanish football and half of it that was on Sky. So there's a lot of names I reckon that would be remembered from a long span of time.
Do you know it's a bit sad, because there was a time when like Scottish football, before the money got mental in England, and so in the 90s actually Rangers bought hundreds of players because of the European ban, because English teams were banned for Europe. So that's how they ended up with Gascoigne and fucking Terry Butcher and all these kind of people, because
they had Brian Laudrup.
They had Laudrup, yeah.
I can't remember I was thinking of them, but yeah, Craig, they had some sensational players. Gattuso was over there.
Absolutely, but Celtic were shite in the 90s, but we still had some decent players. So we had there was Di Canio, George Cadetti, and Van Hooijdonk one season, the Three Amigos.
When was Vikos there? Was it Martin?
If there's ever been a man who should have played for Rangers, if there's ever been a man who should have played for Rangers, it's Paolo Di Canio, isn't it, really?
I know, well, he went on to show his true colours, but he fit in well at West Ham, I think. So.
He wore gold boots when he was at Celtic, didn't he, Di Canio?
Aye, he was just a madman. But those seasons were quite dark seasons for Celtic, and then Henrik came along, and everything got a lot more. Henrik got along, stopped the 10 in a row, and then a couple of seasons later, Martin O'Neill came, and things have been generally
more of the Johan Mjalby era. More like he was the guy who made it tick, wasn't he?
That's funny that you
Prince Charming, good looks at the back, proper jawline. Lavish,
he was
golden locks.
Yeah. Oh, good-looking boy.
What a guy!
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. I think if he played, I think he'd be a prime Barclaysman if he'd have. But I'd maybe call him an honorary Barclaysman. But did you ever get to watch Shinsuke Nakamura in the flesh?
Oh, of course, yeah. I had a season ticket for probably maybe the entire time he was there, and in fact, I was actually at the game when he scored the famous free kick against Man United.
Wow.
But two of the best goals I've ever seen has been from Shinsuke Nakamura that I've seen live. One was that one against Man United, and he scored an absolute cracker against Rangers one time that sort of swerved, like a kind of outward swerve type of thing. And he was an absolutely incredible player. He was quite shite away from home a lot of the time. He was because he was quite lightweight, but I've never seen somebody as good at free kicks. Unbelievable.
Do you remember when he was on that game show in Japan?
He hit it through a bus.
Well, there was a couple. I seem to remember a really balmy one, like you had to bend it into hotel windows or something like that. And then there was another one where he bent it through two moving buses as they passed, and he bent it through the middle of them. Yeah, like the bendy buses, and the middle door opened. Yeah, perfect. Oh, what a guy.
Incredible. That was one of the guys. Do you know that thing? Like, see when you've got such an iconic player, even at the time he was playing, see whenever he took a corner kick, you would just look at him and go, this is iconic. Like, just seeing him take it, because you're like, they're not going to be around forever. And it's those type of players that you just go, I need to savour this now, because, we're not always going to have someone as good at these set pieces.
I think it was the haircut as well helped, didn't it? It's like a Beatlesy sort of.
Well, he was a bit of a forebearer, because the person that I would say is up there in the top three goals I've seen live, the other one was Kyogo Furuhashi, who's just left. But Celtic had loads of Japanese players for a while, and but Nakamura was kind of the first one, and then we get one or two others at that time, and then we get this influx after Ange came.
Didn't you have one bald guy who's just all of a sudden grown hair?
Aidan Mcgeady.
So he's bald by choice, or has he had a hair transplant? Or
he kind of changes
sorry for
his hair, like,
cutting you off there.
No, every game he changes it. He sometimes dyes it blonde, and then he shaves it, and then it's kind of longer. But he's became absolutely incredible under Brendan Rodgers. To be fair, like he's been really, really good, to the point where we've not really missed Kyogo since he's left, because he's just went in the middle and he's been scoring goals for fun.
What do you reckon to obviously Ange's? Because I thought when Ange took over Tottenham, I thought, I knew it'd be like all or nothing football, because that's the way he plays. But what, like, yeah, because did you think he'd struggle as much as he has done at Scotland?
I think he's been unlucky this season with injuries. I know it's like it's becoming a bit of a parody itself because like for months he was just going, well, we've got a whole squad out, mate, and we've got 400 players injured right now. So, but I do feel sorry for him. And I really hope they win the Europa just because I think he is a brilliant manager. It's just it is a bit kamikaze football and like. I think they're struggling with that. If you don't have the players, you can really come up against it. And we get some batterings in the Champions League when he tried it. Although it was amazing to watch, and but I really hope he hangs on to the job. And if they win the Europa, I think next season if they get some players in and all that sort of stuff, they can.
So what it was working for them, weren't they? They were Poznan at Man City beating them 3-1 and things like that. They're celebrating being top of the league in October.
Yeah, even this season they've still had some decent results now and again. But I think for me, I just feel like if Tottenham are going to, they should hold on to him because they'll just bring in somebody else and play shite football. And they always go on about it's Daniel Levy's fault. So I think if they hang on to Ange and give him next season, I think he could come good for them still.
There's often been a lot of sense in keeping all the people instead of making rash decisions, but I think not the modern way, is it? So
it's sort of like bin people at the first sight of any trouble in it. But
it's like this is the reverse Brendan Rodgers effect, who always does well and then fades off.
Yeah.
Aye.
What do you are you worried about Brendan ever leaving again? Because I know that was all my Celtic mates were very because I always class myself as more of an IRA man than Celtic. Not really that harsh. Not really that harsh about Celtic until play Rangers. Like, do you think? Because obviously, I think there's still a bit of a psychic wound of Brendan leaving before the 10, isn't there?
I think I was maybe in the minority where I sort of understood it because see like in Scotland, like, you get it a lot with players. You get used to them leaving. Like they do, if somebody does well enough at Celtic or Rangers, they're going to leave, and that happens with players all the time. Van Dijk and Matt O'Reilly, and a million examples. So see with Brendan thing, the 10 in a row thing was always a bit too much pressure on it. He left mid-season, and people were annoyed at him because he does big it up with the whole being a Celtic fan thing and all that. But I was always a bit embarrassed with the reaction to it because I just sort of understood it. So I never thought he'd be able to come back after that. So the fact he did, I was absolutely buzzing because I think he is a better manager than Ange, I think. And I'd love us to. I think if Celtic are ever going to get anywhere in Europe again, it's going to be under Rodgers because he's a better manager than you should be able to get in Scotland, but because he is kind of a Celtic fan. So
yeah, it was when he joined Liverpool, everyone was kind of raving about how he does it. It's the modern way of doing it, but he's very very astute tactically, and it's always seemed to work. It's just a couple of dull spells that have been really dull in his career have tarnished his reputation somewhat, and potentially his personality in the media sometimes. But and his new teeth.
He's full of shit, but it's fun when he's come back now. Like the Celtic fans' attitude towards him, I feel was like, we know he's full of shit, but we kind of love him for it.
Yeah.
But I think he was unlucky with Leicester not to get top four twice, I think. But for me, like, we done really well in the Champions League this year, considering. And I sort of kind of secretly hope that we don't qualify for the Champions League in the next year or two, get a decent run in Europa or something, and maybe get a run to the final, because I just would love to see us in a final again. I missed out. I was kind of too young to go when the last time Celtic got to one. Rangers have been in a couple in the last decade or so. I would just love to see Celtic back in a final. And I think Brendan Rodgers is about, like, we're not going to get a manager more capable of getting us there than him. So for me, that would be my dream in the next couple of years.
And on the flip side of that, Mark, what do you reckon to... Because obviously the gap at the minute, Ash Palmer of Vulture Authority fame, big Celtic fan, has been trying to persuade me that there's some kind of jeopardy in Celtic games for like the past. We've got St Johnson. Yeah, right. Who's 20 points clear. No, that was cup game. But like, do you think how far off do you think Rangers are from actually competing again? Or
do you know it's never quite as far away as people imagine it is, because like, see, the season that Martin O'Neill came into Celtic, the season before that, we'd had one of our worst ever seasons under fucking John Barnes and Kenny Dalglish. We'd finished about 30 points behind or something. And then O'Neill came in and switched it around in one season. So all it really takes is one team to get a decent manager in, maybe a wee bit of money, the other team to maybe lose a manager, lose a couple of players. And it can, because the budgets, like, even though Celtic are far and away ahead of Rangers financially, like, in terms of how much they spend on the squad and how much it would take to change it, it's not that far away. There's also talk of Rangers getting bought over. So if something like that happened and they weren't as fucked financially, you never know. But it comes and goes. But Celtic in a good position, and particularly if they can hang on to Brendan for another couple of seasons, I'm not too worried at the moment.
I think mainly a lot of the sorry, because of how many times they play each other, it's often just how they perform against each other that swings the league, even by a massive amount.
Rangers have won the last 2 games, to be fair, and we've only played well against them. I would say one time this season. We beat them in the cup after extra time or penalties. I can't even remember which now, but and then they beat us the last 2 times. So, again, that's as you say, it's just. These individual games, sometimes like they can just be more up for it. Rangers have been really weird this season because they've done really well in Europe as well, and then like they play better when they're like counter attacking and stuff, but then they can't break down these low blocks against the Diddy teams, as we call them.
2 words: Georgia Samaras. That's what you need.
I'm probably again in the minority in terms of Celtic fans here, but I fucking hated him, man.
No,
like, I really did, because I had a season ticket when he was there, and he was there at some of the shittiest seasons. And the thing I never really forgave him for was, so there was a season he scored an absolute belter at Ibrox against Rangers, but then the last time we played them that season at Ibrox, he had a penalty that if he'd scored it, he'd have won the league. But he was a fucking just weird player, and he would always like side foot it when he was hitting penalties. So it was obvious where he was going, and they saved it. And if he scored that, they'd have won the league. We ended up losing the league, and and he was fucking shite. But like, see, actually, Dyson Maeda is kind of like the opposite of him, because Samaras was a player that looked as though he could be good, but he could never be fucking arsed. Maeda's a player that looks like he should be shite, but he just like tries so hard and actually is amazing. So for me, at Samaras, he was a cult figure, but it always annoyed me because I felt like he got a lot more love than he actually deserved because he was a cult figure, because he was just actually quite shite, I felt.
Aside from a mate of mine who's a City fan fucking hated him as well. Because I don't know if it was. I think it's the Jesus-iness as well makes it easy.
Yes. I've never doubled down on a player because of how he looked and how he performed on FIFA. That no criticism of my opinion. He's mint.
Yeah.
Aside from Samaras, who's the shittest player you've seen play for Celtic?
I bet they played for Middlesbrough. You've been talking about Strachan.
Barry Robson.
I suffered with Strachan.
Strachan loved signing shite players that annoyed the fans.
He honestly turned down at Borough. He turned down the deal that was already sorted for a 23-year-old Olivier Giroud in favour of Chris Boyd. Never forgive.
He had guaranteed goals coming with Boyd, though, didn't he?
No, he didn't.
Did Jeremy Ali-Adair play for Middlesbrough at some point?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I remember he played for Arsenal. I think he'd be amazing, and he came. I think Strachan might have signed him for Celtic for a bit, and he never.
Was he on loan at Celtic, or did he sign up there?
I think
it was when he left Arsenal, wasn't it? I'm sure
he didn't really play for us, really. I would say the player that I probably hated the most that got a regular game was Gary Caldwell.
Wow.
He was fucking shite. I absolutely hated him, man.
Is that the Caldwell who played for Wigan?
It was.
Aye. Was he no manager?
Possibly the only non-standout cult hero of that Wigan team, because of everyone else he played with is like Dazoo and Chimbonda, and then Baines, and then he just got Caldwell.
Caldwell was fucking pissed.
Caretaker's name.
But Strachan signed a few players. Stephen Presley. He signed a lot of ex-Rangers players. He signed Kenny Miller. Kenny Miller went back to Rangers, and that was terrible. But he signed a lot of players that really should have made it. The one that he did sign that was kind of annoyed the fans initially was Scott McDonald, because he'd scored against Celtic to lose the league in the last game of the season. But he was a Celtic fan, and he's came back and he scored a lot of good, important goals for us. So he kind of redeemed himself. But I don't know. Strachan was one of those guys that would just. It felt like he was almost doing it just to spite people.
So just a Strachan signing is the worst player.
I think Scott McDonald might have been the only good. For us, was the only good Strachan signing because he stayed like long after because we had Willow Flood as well.
Oh well,
Willow
let me
Flood,
tell you about
wow.
Willow Flood because Strachan signed him right. We were meant to sign Stephen Fletcher in a January window, and we never, and we signed Willow Flood instead, right? Which was classic Celtic, just letting away players like John McGinn and all the rest of it. And then we had Aidan Mcgeady was carrying that team at the time, right? But Strachan hated him because he was a bit of a wee prick anyway, right? But he would play him every single game, but then twice against Rangers in a row, Strachan dropped Aidan Mcgeady for Willow Flood. And like again, I'll never forgive him for that because there was no reason to do it other than spiting we lost the league that season. And Willow Flood was fucking shite. And he looked like a wee like homeless ghost or something.
He did, didn't he?
we had there was I remember like one of the I remember a core memory of a Borough game that was my dad and then sat next to this fucking other fella, Kevin Thompson played for Hibs and
Rangers, aye.
And like just because he like I think he came on I think on his first game for us he did his cruciate ligament and then he came back like a year later and did something else that was like 3 monsts and then he's like but you can remember him coming on and then just the bloke there's he's fucking allergic to grass like.
Did you replace Strachan with Mowbray?
Yes, we did. Yeah,
that's a crazy decision because that's exactly what they done at Celtic. And Mowbray was probably one of the worst manager we've ever had.
He's just been sacked yesterday, on it as well.
I got sacked for West Brom, didn't he? But that was a disaster this season when he was there. But he was kind of similar to what we were saying about Angie. Wanted to play like quite attacking football, but ended up just like totally being a mess at the back and didn't really work.
It was like obviously it was painful near the end really because I think I joined in as well. But like for somebody who did so much for Middlesbrough and then like just like have it end quite unceremoniously.
Well, Tony Mowbray started the huddle at Celtic apparently, and so he was quite a cult hero for that. But he came in and then we had a shocking season. We ended up losing 4-0 away to St Mirren, and he got sacked that night.
Yeah, that's unsurvivable.
Who over the time you've supported, who would you say is the youngster that you thought was going to go on to be big things, but who's the most disappointing youngster? Because we've seen a few on Football Manager and things like back in the day, like John Paul McGovern, that kind of thing. It was good on Football Manager but never came through. And
John Paul McGovern.
Oh, there's a guy called Dylan McGeady that was meant to be going to be like the next kind of McGeady, and he ended up going to Hibs and he never really done it. But you know the one that I remember, like, so when I was kind of first started proper going as a wee guy, Sean Maloney was like tipped as the next Larson, basically. Like, he was going to be the new, and he never quite done that. But he was always kind of my favourite player growing up because he was like the kind of young guy, and I think I was a ball boy once or something, and he was like kind of on the bench, and I kind of like, had a wee interaction with him. So I always like really wanted him to do well. But he went to Aston Villa, I think, and then back. But he had a good, and he went to Wigan as well. He had a good career, Maloney, but he never quite.
You could tell there was shades of a much better player in there.
Yeah, absolutely could. Yeah, a bit Kumasi.
I remember as well, like not Celtic, but I remember like just weirdly remembered that like this. Well, like there was a Football Focus. There seemed to be like a bit that went on for about 20 minutes about Ryan Gold.
Oh, aye. Well, he's one of these sort of players that all the Scotland fans always like big up players that play abroad. So he was at Dundee United and then went to like Sporting Lisbon. I think he plays in America. And he gets in the Scotland squad sometimes. He's all right, but he was he was always kind of one of those ones that was bigged up. But I don't know if he's quite.
Yeah, it was like I remember he was like 19 and it was like, the fucking the Messi from Motherwell or whatever. And
well, the other one that's probably worth a mention was Tony Watt, who scored.
I was going to say, what about Tony Watt?
But I used to see after that, I'm probably about the same age as him or something, and so after he scored, I used to see him out all the time in nightclubs, like after that, and it's just that's how it goes. Do you know what I mean? It was probably a bit too much too soon for him, and then he's kind of had just a sort of career just playing for some teams in Scotland, and it's not been. But I mean, what a moment that would have been. He was, I don't even know what age he was, 19 or something.
A winning goal again. Was it at Celtic Park?
Celtic Park, and we put his 2-0 up. We ended up finishing 2-1, but you're like, that was mind blowing stuff.
Yeah. Was he wearing like number 52 or something like that?
This is a thing that annoys me, right? About, I don't know if this happens at other clubs, but see at Celtic, right? So Callum McGregor's the captain, right? And he came through the youth system and all that. He's still number 42. Change his fucking number.
Marc. Welcome to the church of hating keeping your youth number. Like Declan Rice. Declan Rice is a name that shouldn't be mentioned in Irish circles, obviously. 41, shocking. There's you know what I saw the other day at Altrincham? This fucking there's a lad called I don't know. He's one of Altrincham go through that many players. I don't fucking know. It's just pointless form and attachment to him. But Dolan, number 77, was nearly sick. Vanarama.
We had what we do. We are often fond of doing. Gary Hooper was 8 because Celtic 88. Hooper was 88, and Victor Wanyama was 67. It was 1967 when we won the European
It's all
Cup.
Adi Akinbaye's fault. Because he had the 5+5 on his shirt, didn't he? To have 10. Oh no, what was it? He had.
Is that not what they all do? Is that not
1+8? Wasn't it? He had on his shirt, didn't he?
Zamorano in Inter Milan had that. He had 1+8.
I remember Adi Akinbaye doing it in the late 90s at Crystal Palace or something like that. It was just a little plus in the middle.
Is that not meant to be what it is? Because like Mcgeady was 46 for us, and I think it's
I can understand it that way.
Number 10 meant to be, but like I've never figured it out.
I think there was the fact the changing for Celtics you called Hooper number. If you're not 88 or 67, just come on, play the game.
He's still playing, isn't he?
He is still playing. Is he? Where is he?
No. He went to join Wellington
Kettering or something
for a bit, and then
he had a stint. Neil Lennon was briefly the manager of a team in Cyprus, and I think he played for them.
What was it? Ammonia Nicosia, wasn't it? Yeah.
I know he plays with somebody there that they've got better players than they should have. I was at Kettering, and he was.
I think it's like the Italian model. I think is the only way I sort of deem it like acceptable, because I don't know if there's just something about it that like seems normal there. Don't know why.
Aye. Was Balotelli 99 or something? Or who was 99?
45.
Ronaldo was 99 at AC Milan, and Ronaldinho was number 80, and like there are some, but it just feels like I don't know.
He was right over there.
We'll let that slide. Whereas like Trent wearing number 66 is like if he was at number 3 or something, it'd just be makes so much more sense. But because they're loyal to their academy, well, supposedly loyal to their like academy numbers, it's like a sort of nostalgia thing, but. I think it's woke nonsense, Marc, in all honesty.
If only these guys were as loyal to their bloody partners as they were to their youth team numbers, they'd have less personal problems.
All the clubs.
I'm talking to you, Kyle Walker, all right?
I know a few people from Sheffield, and that wasn't a surprise when things like that come
up. They're all like that in Sheffield.
Yeah. The bloody Walkers.
Yeah.
Have we got a team to go on and pick?
Yeah.
Oh, we do. We've got. So we'll do it as we're on the topic of Celtic, Marc. We'll do your 5-a-side of all time of Celticsmen. Now it can be you don't have to. This might. I probably should have told you this when I texted you this morning. Do apologise. But you can make it any formation you want. We had and it's not won't be a mark against you. We had. Possibly the most esteemed football journalist we'll ever have on, James Montague, and he picked his team with no goalkeepers, no fucking.
Well, 5-a-sides, everybody takes a turn, don't they?
Yeah,
rush keeper.
Yeah, so you do whatever you want.
Well, I'm gonna stick it to just like players that I've seen because, like, you know, not going to put in fucking Jimmy McGrory that scored like 400 goals in 200 games in the fucking 1800s. You know what I mean? But so
I remember speaking to somebody about that at Borough. Actually, somebody who said like so our record goal scorer with 61 in a season is George Campbell in 1929. So there is no fucking person alive that remembers that. And then this guy, I don't know though, Campbell did 60. What are you on about?
Turning up at 5-a-side with a pigskin ball.
The keepers would have just been scared to save them back in those days.
Shell shock.
Oh, they were having a fag on the post.
Literally shell shock keepers.
Yeah. So, do you want me to just go through these one by one then?
Go take your time, Matt. Do what you need to do.
Right, so I am going to go with the conventional goalkeeper, and I'm going to go Artur Boric.
Oh, yeah.
Who Celtic have always kind of famously, certainly in the 90s, 80s, and all that, they always had kind of shite keepers. And then Artur Boric was the first one that came along who was a good one, like that I remember. And so he was talking about that night we beat Man United when Nakamura scored the free kick. He saved a penalty for Louis Saha as well. Lennon kicked the ball away, and it meant it was a few more minutes, and I think Saha got in his head. Why Rooney never took the penalty, I'll never know, but I'm fucking eternally grateful. But Boric, the holy goalie, was we used to watch him a lot. He never had fuck all to do, so I remember having a season ticket and we'd always just laugh about him because he was getting quite fat at one point at Celtic, and we were like, it's as if during the game he just went over to the rollover hot dog stand and fucking he had the time to just do that. But and then obviously as I think you know, like he got after a game at Ibrox, he got a big Celtic champions flag and had that. And actually, I think he had a T-shirt that said "God bless the Pope" on it one time. That he wore as well. He played up to the fact that he was a mad Polish Catholic, and the fans lapped it up. But he was a great keeper to be fair when he could be asked. He was
great in the Premier League as well, because he did. Was it for Bournemouth,
Southampton.
Yeah,
he's another one that see if he hadn't kind of fucked it as much at see if he'd stuck with the diet and all that. I think he could have been a really, really top class keeper, but I think he just sort of took his eye off the ball too much.
I think he went to. Did he go to? Was it a World Cup or a Euros with Poland? He was like third choice.
Yeah.
Because it was like Szczesny, that Teton guy,
Fabianski.
Yeah.
Tough
competition. Poland were like still a bit like there's just for some reason had like four really good goalkeepers all at the same time, which is a bit unfortunate.
So my one defender, Bobo Balde.
Oh yes, what a player!
He was unbelievable. Bobo's going to get you, they used to say. He had there was a mental story with Bobo Balde, right? Where Martin O'Neill was, you know how the way they talk about Sven-Goran Eriksson, he was like kind of like treated all the England team like kind of men. Martin O'Neill very much was like that when he was at Celtic as well, and he gave Balde a contract, right? That he paid him way over the odds for this contract renewal, but he also gave him the option where there was one summer where he could just leave for nothing if he wanted, even though he'd signed a new contract. So he had a contract that was like 3 or 4 years, and then so there was. I remember getting his autograph one time because he just came back after failing to sign for Marseille or something, and he was back, but he never really played under Strachan and sat on the bench getting like 30 grand a week for a couple of years. But he was and while Gary Caldwell played instead, but he was amazing under O'Neill and going to the UEFA Cup final and stuff. So he just a big massive guy, and
was he agile to watch, or was he a bit of a unit?
He was a bit of both. He wasn't fast, but he was quite athletic. So and he just was like such a presence. Like you just would not have messed with him, and he was literally just like the biggest, most solid.
I remember him, and he's like cult hero as well. But obviously, only get sporadic games over him. I remember him being brilliant. I remember how massive he was. Like,
because Strachan didn't play. Strachan loved just playing loads of players, but he brought him back once, and he get man of the match his first game back in like a couple of years, and he could have easily. I think O'Neill maybe signed him for Aston Villa for a bit or something, but he was he was brilliant. Balde was what a fucking solid unit, man.
I think I remember he was definitely sort of again, this is sort of like going off final score that you'd see pop up, but definitely a Clydesdale Banksman, where like because it was sort of like so Bobo Balde walked so that Virgil van Dijk could run. You know?
Absolutely. Well, Van Dijk obviously probably arguably better player that played for us, but like, well, no, well, he's definitely a better player. But something about Balde's very, Balde's kind of in keeping with the theme of the pot. Van Dijk's a more modern.
Yeah, he's definitely like, but I remember Balde used to be like a proper impo because it was he there before O'Neill as well?
No, I think he signed.
No.
I think O'Neill must have signed him.
He was the defence with in Strachan times.
Mjällby, wasn't he?
Well, no. So under O'Neill, it was Mjällby and Balde were probably the two best centre backs, but there was a guy useful Haring. Ulrich Larsen as well was another one, and then they had a few.
That's a very Pez name, isn't it, for Henry?
There's a guy, I don't know if you remember this guy because I think he played for Villa as well, but Didier Agat was good. He was kind of a winger. I actually think he was like a striker at first, and then he became a winger, and then ended up as a right back. But he was really good in that defence. But
just before we go to your next position, are you surprised? Just speaking about Van Dijk before, at how little Van Dijk's taken free kicks since he moved to the Premier League?
No.
No,
I didn't really.
I thought he took a lot of free kicks for Celtic. I remember him scoring a specifically good one.
I don't really remember that.
Maybe it's just one of those. He's took two or three, and it's a little highlight reel. But I was under the impression he took free kicks for Celtic.
Scored a lot of goals for Celtic anyway. Didn't he? Like where he'd take just like to go through a team basically.
Almost David Luiz-esque the way he took them as well.
I don't really remember. I'll need to look that up. But I that was a sort of period though. He played for us when like Rangers were out the league and stuff. I probably watched a lot less games at that time. To be fair, because it was just that, as you say, it was a bit fucking boring to be honest. But he was some player. So I've got a midfield three, kind of two wingers and a midfielder basically. So I've got first winger mentioned a few times already, Shinsuke Nakamura. Got to be in there. One of the best players I've seen play for Celtic. Free kick specialist. And I think in fives as well, you want somebody who's just so good on the ball. It'd be difficult to get the ball off and stuff like that. So Nakamura, but as we say, mentioned Man United. They actually scored at Old Trafford as well in a free kick in the group stages of Champions League. So
used to be like because it was like in the era where United were sort of unstoppable, but every year it seemed they either got knocked out of the Champions League. If they got knocked out of the Champions League, it was dead early by either Basel or Celtic.
That's right. Aye. Celtic used to always play the same teams every like that season. I think Benfica won in our group, and then we got them the next year in the group as well. And we always play Barcelona. We'd barely ever played Real or anything like so. It's I don't know. There was something weird about the fixtures with that.
That was when you had that lovely like black third kid that had the green and yellow stripe, or maybe the white one that had the green and yellow stripe down the outside. Sorry, it's just a lovely shirt.
So some nice kits over the years.
Yeah. Sure.
I thought for a minute, James, you're going to say it was that lovely one in green and white.
What sponsor did it have on it, James? James, what sponsor did it have on it?
Oh, Carling, because obviously didn't up until
I can't picture it.
Up until 20. Sorry to go off a completely different tangent. Up until Dafabet came in, I want to say Celtic and Rangers had the same sponsor for like years, didn't they?
They did. It was NTL and then Carling and then Tenants and then I think after that Rangers started doing their own dodgy deals. And Celtic were getting more money elsewhere. So we had Magnus for a few years that they wouldn't have obviously wanted. And then I think at that point they started getting local bus companies and all that sponsored.
Which I always
another very quick
so weird. It was like a hatred bonded by terrestrial broadband.
That's it, just NTL Digital, man. Well, do you know what? See, just to mention that, because there was something really amazing and amazingly unique about when Celtic got to the UEFA Cup final. It was the new kit had already come out. It was the Carlin spot. The first time it was sponsored by Carlin, but because whatever the contract was meant that we had to still wear NTL. So there's only one game that Celtic ever wore that kit with NTL on it, and it was the UEFA Cup final.
Wow,
so that's like a really iconic kit. That
no way.
A very quick tangent, Mark. Though, what I was going to ask you, what do you like? Because obviously in Scotland, not a lot of people know this as well that I've spoken to. That there's no alcohol anywhere in the grounds, is there, in Scotland?
No, it's been apart from obviously the posh seats, but no, like because it always surprises me, like when I go to an English game and you can get a drink, but you're just not allowed to take it out into the stands. Is that right?
Yeah,
But you can't buy it at all in Scotland.
Yeah.
Although I did go
to league and you could just sit and have one with the players while the players.
well, what was weird was I'm not a rugby guy at all, but a few of my mates are and they had the rugby at Hampden Park in Christmas, so just kind of for it as part of our Christmas night out thing, we went along and you could buy a pint there at Hampden Park, but you obviously normally can't, and it was like so fucking weird. But it would probably be carnage. We can't be trusted, to be fair. But but I would be good to get it back as well, because I feel like a lot of this stuff's all a hangover for the 70s and 80s, isn't it? When all this stuff was happening. But,
again.
well, it's more. I suppose it is more Hillsborough and all that kind of stuff, wasn't it? And I feel, but the stadiums are also different now. That I think it's maybe a wee bit of grown-up conversations when they go amiss.
Yeah, I know, because it's not the same as Old Terrace, is it?
No.
Really. But anyway, tangent.
Sorry about the tangent.
That's fine. Well, this next one it might be accused of a wee bit of recency bias here, but I think on balance it works out. So Callum McGregor, who's the current Celtic captain, he's a good kind of has been a good box to box midfielder, which I think in five-a-side you would really want. There's been better centre mids we've probably had, like Paul Lambert and things like that over the years, but I think Callum would be a good guy to bring it for defence to attack.
I remember him at Notts County.
That's what he played with Jack Grealish, didn't he?
Jack Grealish, yeah.
There's a mad photo you see sometimes, but what was it like when he played for them?
I just remember he played differently. He's different position. He was like a winger, almost attacking midfielder. And I just remember, I'm pretty certain. I just remember him. He was like fast and like almost like tricky, and now he's like regressed into more of a central role, hasn't he? But
they started sort of accidentally playing him as a defensive mid, and then realised he was amazing at that, and then he scored quite a lot of good goals this season, so he can take it forward. I sort of think this is my other unpopular Celtic fan opinion, along with my Samaras one, is I feel the same way about Scott Brown basically as well, where I think he was overrated. I never liked him as a player. He couldn't really pass, shoot, score goals or anything. He just sort of stared at players and made them frightened. And there was a value in that, particularly when it worked. But see, when it didn't, I always felt it was like a man down. But I'm so traumatised because he was just another Strachan sign. I'm so traumatised for those shitty years under Strachan and Mowbray, where I had to watch him and Samaras being fucking pish, and I think I never really forgave him for it. But my point is, I think Callum McGregor's kind of the Celtic captain that Scott Brown kind of was sort of hailed as. I actually think McGregor's been a lot better servant for us.
He got 12 goals in 37 games for Notts County one season, so that's a good.
That's quite good.
Yeah, well, there you go. Scott Brown wouldn't have been fucking doing that too that much. Next one that I have mentioned, I think already, but Aidan Mcgeady again, another tricky winger. I mean, should have been a world beater. He should have been a world beater, man. Like, he was an amazing player. Definitely, I used to hear a lot of stories about my mates being up the town and getting in fights with him and stuff. I'm sure he got a lot of hassle. He got a lot of hassle for picking Republic of Ireland instead of Scotland when he grew up. But that was fair enough. But he was an amazing player. Always a bit questionable about his end product, but I tell you what, see on the ball, there was nobody better to watch, like dribbling past a player. He was unbelievable. But he went to CSK Moscow when he really should have went. See if he'd went to the Premier League, I think he could have been a really, really good player.
He did I know what you mean. He went to Everton in the end, didn't he? But he could have been because he spent. I think maybe he did do that a bit because Russia at the time was the money league, wasn't it?
Crazy. It was like McGeady with Emmanuel Emenike up front. It was crazy.
There was another guy that done that. Gary something. I can't remember.
Oh, Mackay Stephen. Was it?
No. There's another guy. There was a guy who played for Hibs that went to Russia. I know. It's annoying.
The one with the mullet, Naismith, big fella, blonde hair.
O'Connor. Gary O'Connor. That's
There we go.
I just went through like the entire phone book of Scottish surnames.
Gary O'Connor went to Russia, no, but McGeady, see if he'd went to England, because it was probably about the peak of his career. He'd done that, and he just took the money, but he kind of wasted his talent a wee bit, I think. And if he'd went to somebody in England, he could have really been a fucking brilliant player, I think.
So my dad had the for an Irishman with a Mancunian accent, used to every time McGeady didn't do well for Ireland, used to racially abuse him for being Scottish. So
you can't win, eh? He's getting abused for being Irish in Scotland and getting abused for being Scottish in Ireland.
No, but it's just was very funny coming out. My dad, who moved over here when he was about 2, so it's like giving it the in an English accent. It's quite funny, especially considering he's obviously got shit for it from Scottish people.
Mm-hmm.
When he was at Spartak, he played with Emenike, Artem Zubia.
Chuba.
It's my Yorkshireness. Where there's 2 brilliant ones. Demi Dizeu, Biliar Dilianetdinov, and where was he? Marcus Rojo.
Biliar Dilianetdinov. That's funny.
I know, yeah, just my jumble. Yeah, Marcus Rojo was there as well.
Really?
Yeah, he must have been young.
No.
Good squad over there. Was it West Brom Emenike went to?
I think so. Yeah, it must have been. It was one of them. West Ham.
West Ham. Yeah.
Going for sort of like a false 9 approach then. 5-a-side wise. There's no out and out striker.
Oh no!
There's another one yet, James. That's only 4.
The last one is no surprise whatsoever. But of course, I've got to go. King of Kings, Henrik Larsson.
There you go. Yeah.
Of course. I don't know if he counts as a Barclays man, because he did sort of have a cameo for Man U that season in the league.
I'd say he does.
Because of the age he was in his career and how he played. Absolutely.
Especially just to come for 6 months, win the league, fuck off. That's just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great to see him come on and obviously that famous Henry interview about saying, he says, I did not see Ronaldinho, I did not see it. I saw Henrik Larsson when he came on and set up the 2 goals to beat Arsenal in that Champions League final, which was great to see him get that trophy. But Henrik, amazing, 2 goals in Seville in the UEFA Cup final. He won the Golden Boot one season after breaking his leg, 53 goals, I think, and absolute. It
was a bad leg break as well, wasn't it?
It was a bad United, but he came back unbelievable, and stopped 10 in a row. And then when Martin O'Neill came in, just what a player! Got us to Seville, couple of league titles, and seven glorious years. I was a ball boy one time, and he scored. It was his birthday, and I done this like the "we are not worthy" sort of thing, and I get told off by one of the stewards for doing it, and then some of my mates were in the stands and see me. I get slagged relentlessly for that. And then I was back on the pitch because I won a competition in the newspaper, and I was one of the wee guys with the flags as they came out, and they had a sort of testimonial for him. They called it a farewell fiesta, and I was on the park for that. So that was my claims to fame.
Wow.
For
Henrik Larsson's farewell fiesta.
Well, the dreadlocks as well. Like they were fantastic. In that
they were. It was funny because he really had a sort of before and after. Like I still remember the day that he cut them off, and like it was like a massive deal in Scotland. Like that was like the biggest story ever. But he was actually better with the dreadlocks. Like he was the season that he scored 53 goals was after they cut them off. And
I'm just thinking about the chip though. Like that.
Of course. Martin O'Neill's first game against Rangers, Celtic won 6-2, and Larsson scored that. Probably one of the best goals ever. That chip over Stefan Klos for fucking 30 yards out. Sticks the tongue out. That was his celebration. Unbelievable. Iconic. With the dreadlocks.
The dreadlocks thing, wasn't that superseded by, was it Diego Laxalt who joined?
He kind of had more braided stuff, and then he always wore glasses. He looked like he looked like a wee 14-year-old girl in high school or something like that.
I saw someone put something like, "Why does he look like me and Salou on holiday?" Oh wow!
I thought for 1 minute, James, you were saying Diego Laxalt was a better player than
Oh yeah,
was that one horrible.
But there you go. So that's it. Boric, Balde, Nakamura, Callum McGregor, Mcgeady, and Henrik Larsson.
Do you know what? Out of all the
Cannot
ones we've had,
complain.
that's what. Yeah, that's quite formidable.
Are you sub or manager?
Am I a sub or manager?
Yeah.
Are you sub or manager?
You can sub yourself on, Mark, or do you want to just manage?
Oh, I need to sub myself on just to have a wee game. I'd probably sub off Callum, and
He'd understand.
I'd just be giving the ball to everybody else. That'd be nice.
What I was going to ask you about, Mark, is you went to the like James, our roving correspondent. Who didn't? You should have filmed some stuff at Ukraine, Romania, James. Still an audit.
I did film some stuff, but it was of the fans.
You went to the Euros, didn't you, Mark? I'm sure you did.
I did. We went for the 2 weeks, which was the entirety of Scotland's
wow.
involvement in it.
Were you in Munich, Mark? That's where I
went. We just followed the team around, so we were in Munich. So we got really lucky, right? So the first night before the first game, which was obviously Scotland Germany, we got to go to this thing. So Fred McCauley, right, who's a comic, he years and years ago, they basically him and Ali McCoist done like a basically Scottish version of Badil and Skinner called McCoist and Macaulay. So back in the 90s, they'd done that show. So they were doing like the night before the first game of the Euros there. Fred and Ali hosted like a night with all these Scottish greats. So like Sir Alex was there and fucking all these there's all these like footballers, McFadden and like all the ex-Scotland players.
These great
like
footballers, McFadden.
Well, he was good for Scotland.
Like,
all the big Scotland guys and fucking Alex Salmond was there and he was still fucking alive. It was crazy, just all these mad Scottish celebs and footballers. But Fred got us into it. He got me and the guys in, so we got free drink all night. It was some party and watching him and McCoist up there with Travis were playing and all that. It was fucking unbelievable. Like honestly, it was so good. We filmed it on. We've got it on our Patreon for the podcast. Like it was an unbelievable day. And then at that night, a guy I know got us a couple of tickets for the game. So we got tickets in with all the players' families and stuff like that. And see, I've got obviously the game was shocking, right, for Scotland. We beat 5-1 or whatever it was after Germany. But see that half an hour before the game at the Allianz Arena, even me being a Celtic fan and been to loads of amazing atmospheres, that was like one of the maybe the best atmosphere I've ever been involved in because it was so exciting and the Scotland flags everywhere. And for us, it's had, it never happened. 1998 was the last time we'd qualified for a tournament outside of the UK, and like to be there and to experience it and for the opening game, it was unbelievable. And then the game started and we get bumped.
That's what I love, to be fair. I mean, I don't follow England, but when we went, I arrived the day after, and there are obviously still a lot of Scotland fans there, just having time in Munich after. But still, like the amount, like just chants every 2 minutes, no matter where we went into one bar with a bunch of Scotland fans who were amazing, and then what's your man out of Line of Duty? Marc
Compton. Well, I done his telly show when we were in Munich as well. We were hanging about with him a wee bit and all. It was good.
I think I've crossed paths with you maybe like in green rooms or something like gigging, but I saw you with him. Oh, maybe Gordon Smart as well.
Gordon Smart. Well, him and Gordon were doing their version of the Badil Skinner thing. Was that when the England game was on?
I think it was maybe the day before or the day of the game, but they were
it was the day of the game.
Part of the pub we were in. I was like, I was trying to get in there, but they wouldn't let us in. I was on the stag do and I was wearing a hat that said nonce on it. So I wasn't allowed in.
Gone to the UEFA door.
Yeah.
But it was amazing though. They honestly, like, fantastic. Like, just for a team that obviously like the game had already happened, but to still have that level of support, because I think other than them, I think it might have been Romania who had quite a lot of fans in Munich when they played. But it was. I can't believe what it was like for you.
No, it was unreal. And the next day, we were there till the Monday or something. So the next day after the game, we all went to a big beer garden, and it was just all Scotland fans. Like, it was just the trip of a lifetime, and getting to go all around Germany. It was amazing. And the games, but it's a shame that Scotland were so fucking shite, because otherwise it was such an amazing trip.
I remember, I feel a great deal of sympathy for Scotland's previous plight now, as obviously with Ireland, is like watching Ireland is what Scotland were 10 years ago. Well, not 10 years, bit before that, no. But like, so even like, it was like even the goal, even if it might have been in a 5-1, I'd literally today rewatched Robbie Brady's header against Italy, just just for a bit of light relief.
Aye.
So, but
well,
I'm looking forward to.
My controversial opinion, is not maybe controversial, but my opinion is Scotland would have qualified for a tournament a lot sooner if McGeady had played for Scotland.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. Because if you like with the Ireland qualified for 2016 with a pretty subpar team, and if McGeady had been in that Scotland, that's probably swap places.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, but like that's why I'm looking forward to. When is it the one in UK and Ireland?
2030.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because it means we'll qualify.
I was going to say that, do you reckon? Because it is like
fucking
the UK
4
and
teams,
Ireland, are they going to let them all? Are they going to?
Well, I heard something about like it was going to be like like England, like Gareth Southgate said, "Oh, we want to qualify," and the Irish FA were like, "Fucking, we don't."
Yeah, I think that was the case. Yeah, I think it was.
So I'm not sure if it's just I think it might just be like England, like it'd be like with the American World Cup where they've just like take 3 places out, I suppose, isn't it? But
aye, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it because it wouldn't be England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland hosting it? Is that?
And Northern Ireland have got
so 5 teams, isn't it?
5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cornwall will probably be fucking independent by then. I know.
Plymouth Argyle, fucking representing
the Cornish FA. No, that's funny.
Well, Mark, we'll get on to the coveted, not coveted, but you know what I mean. The Barclaysmen 11.
I'm starting to think that might not be happening this fucking episode.
Sorry, mate. We get there eventually. We just Tangent City.
Well, that's
more tangents than a year 8 maths class. Come on, shocking. Yeah. So I'll shut up. Barclaysmen 11 Barclaysmen in whatever order you want.
I'll go for I'm trying to keep it a 4-4-2 here. So
good. We've not had a non 4-4-2 yet. I don't think so.
Is that right? Well, it's good because I think that's a bit the appropriate amount of for the representation of the players in it. But I was curious. Do you think Craig Gordon does he qualify as a Barclaysman?
Yeah.
Who's it? Sunderland he was at then. So I would see him more as a Scottish guy, to be fair, because he was at Hearts, the Celtic Hearts. He's still at Hearts. He came to my French show last year actually. Craig Gordon,
really?
So I was great. I'm a big Craig Gordon head, but I would say that, to be honest, the one that I would say is probably more of a Barclaysman that I'm actually going to choose is Brad Friedel.
Oh yeah, solid.
Played for Blackburn Rovers.
Scored as like that bit where he scores that 95th minute equaliser or whatever. They then go and lose that game, which is hilarious.
No way, really?
Yeah. They go to Charlton, go up the other end and score.
I'm sure he was the goalie because again on Celtic's on the UEFA Cup final he played in goals for Blackburn that year. But I kept an eye on him ever since, and he was a quite iconic guy, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, America had a period of like him, Howard, Casey Keller. There was just like, just renowned for
Yeah.
I don't know how good you can be a Barclays.
Oh no, you can be like it stretches all the way. My upper limit would be someone like Dimitar Berbatov because he smokes. So.
Aye, well, Berbatov is a good example, but like, because you can't just put in like Henry and all that, can you? Like, it's like they're too good to be a Barclaysman.
Yeah, he had a good moment when he shagged that penalty up, so you could argue.
We'll come back to that. There's a couple for my left back. I was toying with Rory Delap, but I think that he's probably mentioned so often because of the throw-in stuff that I'm going to actually go for John Arne Riise.
Oh, a lovely choice.
Yeah, I think he's a very Barclaysman in my book. John O'Shea.
Oh yes, yes, definitely.
Centre back. Saul Campbell. Because even though he was in a good team, he was quite a shite player when.
Yeah, he was a. Widehead,
I think as well now that sort of I'm willing to forgive him standing for Tory Mayor of London.
I did not know he'd done that.
Yeah, he did. I'm willing to forgive that just because of that video where he goes, "Is it a colour thing?" I was thinking, "Is it?" When he goes,
"A colour thing." Yeah.
I was struggling a wee bit with a right back. I don't know if Paul Telfer would count actually because he played for Celtic, but I don't know really who he played for in England. But I just remember
Coventry. Yeah,
he was
predominantly midfield, but he definitely played right back up Celtic.
He was right back at Celtic, but I actually thought Seamus Coleman probably seems like the most.
Yeah,
he seems like
I think Seamus Coleman might be the only one of very few Barclaysmen still playing in the band.
Yeah. He's keeping the name alive, isn't he? 60 grand from Sligo Rovers, was he?
Yeah.
Is that no? Because did they know that when Moyes came back, it was like he gave him his first start, and then he brought him on, and he was playing again when Moyes came back to Everton. Now that's crazy.
Yeah, there was an interim period when they got rid of Dyche. Him and Baines took over for one game, and it was like I'm 27, but I felt like a pensioner watching those two. Like, it felt really weird to watch them in tracksuits.
It's crazy. So the next one, so midfield then. So we were speaking about this guy off air, and the reason I remember him because there was always a rumour that he would sign for Celtic, but JJ Okocha.
Oh yes. Oh, we've had a good argument today on Twitter via Mike.
Yeah, data virgins on strings, as they would say in their vocabulary.
And so what is it they're upset about again, Michael?
So there was a poll on the MSN homepage which took my eye. And
that's very Barclaysman in itself.
No. So it's like the homepage at work. I shouldn't be browsing at work, but and it's just one of them things you can click through, and it said the top 10 most overrated Premier League players, and I was scrolling through, I was laughing at it, and then it brought up JJ Okocha because he never once got more than X amount of goals or assists in a season, and and then somebody else this evening's just put. I'm really sorry to spoil this for you, but he wasn't actually that great, and he sometimes went missing in games. And it's just the thing nowadays where, like, because of Messi and Ronaldo being superb in every single game, if you're not superb in every single game, you can't be good anymore. And you can have one good game in 300.
It's up there.
Look at Mcgeady. Look at Mcgeady, for example.
It's up there with someone calling us ciphers for the far right.
No.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So when in the height of the Barclaysman craze, Mark, we got called fascists for remembering things.
That's ridiculous. Well, anyway, my next choice is Paolo Di Canio.
On the right, lovely.
No, I was. Fascist, ridiculous. Paolo, he's mainly for his political views. No. Di Canio hadn't made my original squad. Well, I'm going to actually ask you this because would you say is Robert Pires, is he too good to be?
Oh no, Pires. I think Pires is because he never got in the French. I think because he never got in the French team, and because he looked so fucking cool.
Yeah,
he didn't look like a winger, did he?
As well.
Was not built like a winger.
And because in the David Guetta video where he goes, in the David Guetta shout out to his family video, Robert Pires is in there.
Is he?
Yeah. If you watch it pans to Robert Pires and his wife.
Wow. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Well, you might be fascist, but you stand up for Black Lives Matter, and that's what matters really. But Pires, like, so I would say that be honest, I watch the Premier League as a neutral for the most part, and I think depending on who the managers are, who the players are, from one season to the next, I can back different teams, usually except from Chelsea. Although I did like them when Mourinho was there because I do like Mourinho.
Mourinho on it.
But Arsenal are my English team if I had to pick, because my dad, they're his English team. And I remember obviously growing up around that era with Henry and all that kind of stuff, the Invincibles. Pires was just such a class player to watch. I remember that game they beat Juventus 2-0. Me and my dad sat and watched that. It's like a bit of a core memory for me. And was there no that weird penalty they took as well that time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who was it? Was it Pires later
Henry or
Pires? Aye. Well, that's to Pires. He was just such a, and also just I think that I remember when I was out and about like drinking in the streets as a kid at like 14, and I always remember thinking that if they asked for my name, I would give a fake name, Bobby Price, which was based on Robert Pires. Bobby Price and Terry Henry. So I've got a couple here. In my midfield, right? So the Canio, I was toying with. I'm not going to put in. Do you get subs or not?
Yeah, we'll give you a sub. Yeah, we'll give you subs, mate. Yeah.
A couple of subs.
Have a ref if you want.
I'm going to put Charlie Adam on the bench, right? But I do feel Charlie Adam is such a. It's crazy that he played for Liverpool. Yeah, it's nuts. I used to see him. He was always out in nightclub when I was 17. He was probably a few years older, and that we used to be in nightclubs. And he was always in this place called Silver every Thursday night. He was there drinking fucking Blue Wickets, and when he was at Rangers. But it's
a sign of a true Barclaysman. To be fair,
he was a good. He scored some good free kicks. To be fair to Charlie Adam, he scored some good free kicks. Not looking well for his age whatsoever these days, but Adam he had a decent career in England, didn't he?
Anyone tried to pass him off as some Scottish in Xavi, didn't they, when he signed for Liverpool? Like,
aye.
Anyone who has a song about the sisters' pants as well.
Pants. I remember the game that Nakamura scored that belter against Rangers. I remember walking out the stadium and seeing two boys holding some big, massive pants that said Charlie Adams Sisters on it. But I'm going to. He's not on the bench. He's not making it because I wanted to put in James McFadden, who I just mentioned, who was an amazing player for Scotland. I always wished he was another one I wished signed for Celtic. He scored the famous scored a fucking worldie, the Prince against France for Scotland. Unbelievable goal. Great player. Was always quite inconsistent at Everton. I think he was maybe injured a lot and stuff, I guess.
He was, yeah. His effort wasn't inconsistent though, was it?
One of the most underrated goals that never gets talked about is the flick over his head and bang for Everton.
He was great. He's now basically a fucking Jamie Carragher or something in Scotland. Despite the fact he's not good money, he's just on Sky Sports every week for the Scottish games. But McFadden, what a player! And then I'm going to go for Juninho.
Oh yes, come on. No argument from me.
Middlesbrough. He was because he played for you when you got to the UEFA Cup final. Is that right, under McLaren?
Yeah. 2006. No, he was in the Carling Cup final. He was gone by 2006. Yeah, I think he was at Celtic then actually.
Oh, maybe it would have been because he signed for us the year Larson left, and he took the number 7 jersey, and so I was at his debut, Celtic Rangers, and he was brilliant, and I got Juninho 7 on my back and my Celtic top. And then he was fucking shite for the rest of
the season.
Have you still got that shirt?
Oh, I must have it somewhere. I've got a picture of it somewhere as well. So I've got, but he was good, didn't he, in England and stuff? And he used to play? He played for Brazil. He won a World Cup, didn't he?
There was a point where in '98. Think about this. Think about this happening now is just insane. So Ravanelli won the Champions League, and the next game he played was for Middlesbrough.
He's got a hat trick for Liverpool in it though. Against Liverpool in it though. Yeah.
And Juninho as well. Juninho won the World Cup 2002, and the next game he played was for Middlesbrough.
Listen, when Juninho signed, I remember it being on the news, like the 6 o'clock news, and they had him coming out and doing kick-ups on the pitch and all the fans there. And
people at Teesside Airport with Brazilian flags. And this was before Amazon. Yeah. Where did you get that from?
Well, it was because, do you remember Le Tournoi, where Roberto Carlos scored? He played in that. Which was obviously the first time England had eyes on the Brazilians at that point before the World Cup, and they'd seen him, and and then Middlesbrough did they have a lot of what happened? Because they got Emerson as well, didn't they? And
just a bit of a
cash
spending. I think it was the days where you could have tried. I think just players wanted to play in England, and it was like, where so there was a lot. It was sort of like where the difference, like Bournemouth, like Evan Ilson, lad who plays for Bournemouth, like it cost them like 70 million quid. I suppose it's a very similar sort of thing, but like back in the day, it was a bit more. It was better players basically, but.
Did it annoy you that there was another Juninho that played for Leon? Because he was Juninho Paulista, the guy we were talking about, and then there was Juninho who's, and often you get them mixed up. I think this is a weird thing that happens a lot in football, by the way, where there's often two or a few players with the same name all at the same era. So Juninho, there was a period a couple of years ago where there was loads of Dembélés.
All Mooses as well.
Yeah,
there was loads of Torres for a while as well.
So that happens. That happens. Two of them are brothers, to be fair. But
but
that happens a lot. It's weird how there's like just in the same era, like because it's not as if there's just the other Juninho's playing now. They played at the same time, and it's I always find that very very.
And obviously, like odd. Eno is like means little, doesn't it?
Well, the nickname is because Ronaldo, as the kids call him, R9. He had in World Cup '94. He had Ronaldinho on the back of his shirt.
Did he?
Because it means little Ronaldo.
I refuse to call him CR7. I heard someone use that the other day. I was like,
"It's fat Ronaldo."
Yeah.
But the other Juninho, Leon Juninho, he isn't little. He's like 5'11". So what's going on there?
Yeah. There you go.
So recap the midfield for us, Marc.
So the midfield. So the wingers, JJ Okocha on the right, Robert Pires in the left, McFadden and Juninho in the middle.
That's beautiful.
McFadden sat amongst gods there as well. Can you imagine having Okocha and Juninho in the same team?
Oh.
The ball wouldn't touch the ground.
A few many broken ankles.
So twisted. Up front, I've got two guys who basically done the same thing where they spent a second half of a season on loan at Celtic and were like far too good for the league, but we still ended up losing it anyway. So the first one of those, Craig Bellamy.
Oh yes,
what a striker he was.
Yeah,
I love his interviews for Wales now as well. As manager, where he's just like, yeah, we were shit.
He's very honest. He's always been a kind of like he was always quite a kind of fiery character, Bellamy. But he came up for half a season at Celtic and was brilliant. Scored an absolute cracker against Rangers in I think at Hampden, and it was maybe the Scottish Cup final or the semi or something. And it was at Ibrox, but he also scored in the cup final. He was brilliant, and in England, so he played. I remember he was at Liverpool, but he was like because there's that famous picture of people have photoshopped of him getting subbed on for Crouch, and somebody's made him even smaller and Crouch even bigger, isn't he? But it was at Newcastle. I think he was at Newcastle when we had him on loan, maybe, or Blackburn, was it?
One of the two. I think it was when he fell out with the manager. I'm pretty certain it was when he fell out with Graham Souness at
Newcastle. I was surprised Souness fucking gave him to Celtic, to be honest.
I was going to say same thing.
But and the other one
via Galatasaray.
The other one who done the same thing, although the league was over thanks to Tony Mowbray by the time he arrived. Robbie Keane.
Oh yes, Robbie Keane's like on all the most on a lot of my questions that I ask in kitchens at 4 AM of like who's got the most like basically non-English players with over on almost every list of my questions is Robbie Keane's on him because he was just fucking. He did everything. He was all things to all men.
He was amazing. He actually played, I remember Celtic, so Jackie McNamara's testimonial, they done Celtic versus Republic of Ireland, and so Robbie Keane played in that game and he scored at Celtic Park. So then years later he came back on loan, but he was far and away like far too good for this. But like he wasn't even trying, and he looked like the best player in the world playing in Scotland. Like he was unbelievable. But he was I think he was maybe underrated in the Premier League as well because he done well for Tottenham and all that, didn't he, at the time?
Yeah, I had on the back of my shirt for Liverpool, and that went about as well as Juninho at Celtic. But yeah, I think he's cousins with Morrissey actually.
Is he?
Yeah, Morrissey described him as pacing about the pitch like a lion.
Wow.
There you go. So there's still remnants of the far right in the.
You know. I was going to say, but no, Robbie Keane, what a player! I actually seen him. Weirdly enough, him and James McFadden were both at that party I was talking about in Germany.
Oh no!
And at the end, as I was leaving, they were having a conversation. I went up to the both of them and said, "Robbie, I love you. James, I wish you played for Celtic," and then left them alone. But I bothered both of them that night.
I've got to do a bit of bothering every now and again, you know. Got to. Oh well, thank you very much, Mark. That was that was a lovely chat. Where can people find you on the old internet?
I'm at Marc Jenko on most stuff. I don't know when this goes out, but I'm on tour soon as well. So you've got to come see me to stand up. And I'm doing a weekend where I'm in Manchester, Liverpool, and Leeds, where I assume that you've got a lot of followers about there. So I think that's 16th, 17th, 18th of May. But I'm doing a UK and Ireland tour all across UK and Ireland except Wales. And and tickets are on my website. And and also I've got a podcast called Some Laugh as well. So check that out too.
And as I said to you whilst I was off my face, last time I seen best title I've ever come across in comedy, Marxism.
There you go. We pun, never hurt anyone.
Yeah, go on, James. So.
No, Bobby Price. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Bobby Price. Tickled James there.
Yeah. Oh, what an episode! It's been fantastic. You can find us at Cultures Pod on all social media platforms. We have got a Patreon.
You'll be up to date soon.
Been
working hard.
If you want to chuck some coins in the fountain. At the minute, it's kind of like, when you go to like the zoo, when you put a penny in that thing and it makes a commemorative coin. It's not worth anything, but it might be one day. Catch us next week for another episode.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.